Hello, love. If you've ever felt haunted by someone who is no longer in your life, this is going to be for you. And I know if it resonates with you, if it truly resonates with you, you know exactly what I mean. You've blocked this person, you've deleted the pictures, the videos, the text messages. Maybe you have prayed over or saged every corner of your living space while playing a playlist that also cleanses the space, right? You've cried, maybe you've meditated on it, you've journaled, you've prayed, you've done a soul tie removal session. You've absolutely tried to move on, but you're still feeling that ache. Right? You're still feeling that pull, that moment where you hear their name out of nowhere, or you think about them randomly, or you're dreaming about them like they never left. And it makes you question yourself, doesn't it? Like, why am I still feeling this? Am I crazy? Am I weak? Did the spell not work? Did the Reiki not work? Is this some kind of karmic punishment? And I want to stop you there for a moment and reiterate to you that you are not crazy and you are not weak. And no, you aren't doing healing wrong, right? Sometimes it takes time. Sometimes it's something a bit deeper. You're feeling something incredibly real. And because when we connect so deeply with someone, especially through emotions and love and pain and intimacy, or that spiritual bonding, it isn't just an emotional connection. It is absolutely energetic and spiritual. And that energy sticks around sometimes. So today we're going to talk about why that happens. What's going on beneath the surface? And I want to explain to you some ways that you can release it in a way that's loving and peaceful and true to your spirit. So energetic cords are real, right? They're very real. I know a lot of you listening today have experienced them firsthand, and they can be overwhelming and powerful and painful sometimes. Think about them like invisible threads that connect us to different people, especially if that connection was very intense, painful, loving, or there's some unresolved stuff still in that connection. And these cords aren't metaphorical, right? They physically exist in our energetic bodies, in our auras, our chakras, our emotional field, and in our spiritual memory. And they form through different things. So if you're intimate with someone, if there's trauma involved in your connection, vulnerability, deep emotional exchange, every time you had that late night conversation where you opened up and you bore your soul to that person, every time that you gave more of yourself, more than you truly had to give, every single time your heart felt safe or shattered in their presence, that energy, it left a thread, a tie, a mark. And the thing that most people don't understand or don't really discuss is that energetic cords don't care about time, right? They don't care it's been 8 months. They don't care that it's been 2 years, 5 years, 2 decades. They don't care that you haven't moved on, but maybe the other person has. If that energy exchange was powerful enough, that cord is going to stay, right? Until it is consciously released. So this isn't just about missing someone or loving someone. You can love someone and let them go. These ties are about energy exchange. It's about pathways of energy that are still running between the two of you. Whether it's between you and them in the present, or it's between you and a past version of them. And maybe you've heard people talk about soul ties, which are the energetic bonds that get formed when a piece of your soul resonates so deeply with another person. These spiritual hooks that can happen when someone attaches themselves to your energy. And usually it's unconscious, right? And then you have the karmic loops, where you have energy from past lives, lessons, soul contracts. It all just keeps circling back and begging to be resolved. Right? These are very real experiences and patterns, and they can make it very difficult for some of us to move on, even if we want to, even if we're trying to. So if you're sitting here thinking, why am I still crying over someone that didn't even treat me right? Or why do I feel so sick when I see their name pop up, even though we haven't spoken in months? There's nothing wrong with you. You're sensitive, you're intuitive, you're tuned in, you're experiencing that tie. Right? You are someone who feels things deeply, and that is a beautiful gift, even if it hurts. Your nervous system is forming this pattern of attachment with this person. Your energy field is creating memories just the way that your brain does. And that's why even if you mentally understand that someone was not good for you, they weren't good for your body, they weren't good for your spirit, your mind, you may still feel bonded to that person. It's like your soul is remembering all of these moments that your mind is trying to forget. And when it is left unresolved, when something in that connection is still there and hasn't properly been dealt with, or you haven't received that closure, whether it's guilt, grief, longing, or questions that just weren't answered, each one of those emotions can create tiny energetic tethers between the two of you. They anchor that cord, and they keep that energetic loop going and going and going, right? That energy is just being exchanged back and forth. And it doesn't mean that you're doomed to be stuck this way. It just means that there's a part of you that is still carrying something that needs that acknowledgement, that needs that love, that needs that deep, intentional release. So let's get specific and talk about what this can feel like in your day to day. So maybe you've had this specific scenario happen. Maybe you're out shopping for groceries or clothes or a gift for someone, and you're just minding your own business. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, your chest gets tight. You feel nauseous, you feel anxious, maybe clammy and sweaty, but nothing happened. You were just minding your own business, right? And then you realize that you just walked past someone who looked almost exactly like them. Or you heard a song that reminded you of them. That's an energetic memory. Or how about the dreams, right? I know when you're tied to someone, it's very common to have very relentless and restless dreams. Maybe you haven't thought about them in weeks, but you're dreaming about being back together, or they're constantly popping up in your dreams. Walking through old places, having deep conversations, even conversations you never really had with them in real life. You're waking up confused, you're emotional, you're thrown off. Your subconscious mind is trying to process all of this residue. And sometimes it's also in their energy. It's them reaching for you in the astral, right? In the astral realm. Or maybe you finally start to feel better, right? You're feeling lighter, more like yourself, more independent. You've been journaling, you're focusing on yourself, maybe even laughing again, having fun, right? Like you used to. And then in that beautiful moment, they text you out of nowhere. Like they felt that shift and panicked. And I promise you that is not a coincidence. That is a cord that is still open, still alive, still active, and exchanging energy, even if it's without your conscious permission. And sometimes it's quieter than that. Sometimes it's not a blatant text message, right? Sometimes it's the way that you feel watched, or you feel their energy around you out of nowhere, or the way that they are checking on your socials. It's that ache at night that you feel when everything is silent and you're just trying to go to sleep, right? Maybe you're feeling that grief, but it's not really yours to carry. It's not yours to hold on to. It's that energetic entanglement. And once you learn to recognize it, you can start to release it. And you don't have to carry that forever, right? But you do have to acknowledge that it's there. So often we are taught to believe that once someone is out of our life, once we've blocked them, we've deleted them, removed them from everything we can think of, that their influence or their hold on us should vanish too. But that spiritual healing doesn't follow the same rules as the physical separation. Maybe you moved states, you changed your number, you threw away every last physical reminder of them, and you still feel that tug. Because it's not about the distance, right? It's about resonance. And that resonance lives in the energetic body. You can have those boundaries, but you can still have energetic holes that their energy is leaking through. And you can light the incense, you can cleanse, you can still have those emotional wounds that have not closed. And sometimes we rush into those protection rituals, and we think that it's going to protect us and shield us from the grief, from the longing, the confusion, and it can be very powerful. But when it's used to avoid emotions instead of working through them or transmuting it, it becomes a kind of spiritual bandage over a deeper wound. And that is spiritual bypassing. We use these tools like sage or Palo Santo or oils or holy water, crystals, even mantras as a way to skip the uncomfortable emotional parts of healing. But your spirit doesn't want you to skip it, right? It wants you to witness it, to feel it, to honor it. Because that is how we clear it. We can't get around it. We have to go through that energy, through those feelings. Now, I want to talk about something that happens to so many of us when we're deep in our healing journeys. Oftentimes we do so much work, right? You're making a lot of progress, you're feeling lighter, and then you do something small and it feels like this tiny little slip up. Maybe you checked their Instagram, or you're trying not to message them, but you do it anyway just to see how they're doing. You're curious, right? And instantly this wave of their energy hits you, and all of the emotions follow. The sadness, the confusion, that cord is reactivating and absolutely igniting. And your spirit notices all of this. Even a 5-second scroll sends a signal to your soul that that door isn't closed. And other times, we might let that cord revive through labeling. We start convincing ourselves that the pain means that it was something cosmic. If it hurts this bad, it must be a twin flame, right? If it feels that intense, it must be fate. But not all intensity is sacred. Sometimes it's trauma bonding and chemistry, and your nervous system is in a chaotic state, disguising itself as passion. And a really difficult truth that I'm doing my best to deliver with love is that if the connection is built on anxiety, fear, inconsistency, or emotional spikes, it is not divine alignment. That is unfinished trauma looking for a familiar rhythm. And then there's the guilt, right? That belief that you still owe them something. You still owe them your energy. Maybe you were too harsh. Maybe you need to fix it. Or you start replaying these old conversations. You're fantasizing about running into them and finally saying that one thing that you didn't get to say. And I know those thoughts and those fantasies might seem harmless, but each one is acting like a little energetic anchor, and they're keeping your spirit tethered to the past version of them. And sometimes it's not even them that you're attached to. It's the story they represented. Maybe you thought this relationship would finally prove your worth. Maybe you felt like with them, you were more lovable, you were exciting, you were whole. And that person becomes a symbol, not just of love, but of who you hoped that you would get to become in their presence. And that version of you, the one you thought was healed, the chosen one, the soft one, the one who felt seen and heard. Sometimes that is who we're truly grieving. We're clinging to that identity, not the person. And that is where shadow work comes in. It's not just looking at what they did or they didn't do, but asking what part of you felt seen through them. What was I hoping to heal in me when we were together? What truth was I trying to avoid by keeping that connection alive? Because often they were just a mirror. The pain is where the message is lying. And that emotional residue is the signal that your spirit is sending to say, hey, it's time to reclaim this part of you. So before we start to move into clearing and release, I want to pause for a moment and invite you to sit with a few gentle questions and just notice what comes up for you. Do you truly miss them, or do you miss who you thought you could be with them? What are you afraid will happen if you let this go completely? Is there a part of you that still feels responsible for their healing or their story? Who are you becoming now that they are no longer a part of your path? What would it feel like to be free of their energy, not just physically, but spiritually? And no matter what your answers are to these questions, I want you to be open and raw and honest and hold those answers with compassion, because this is about becoming conscious. It's not about holding on to shame or guilt or blaming yourself, but being more aware of where you are and where your energy is. So cord cutting, which is something that I see all over the place these days, is getting pretty trendy, but I want to talk about the real meaning behind it. This is not something that's meant to be done in a negative light or energy or meant to be punishing. It's not some ritual that you do to try and convince yourself that you're over someone either. Cord cutting is sacred, energetic work that is deep. It's a type of spiritual hygiene, emotional reclamation. It is you calling your own energy back, clean, clear, and whole. And this isn't about pretending what happened with this person did not happen. It's honoring the fact that you experienced something with them, but it's there to say, I'm ready to shift how their energy lives inside of me. It's not to burn a bridge. It's not to be angry. It's about lovingly collapsing those old energetic bridges, again, lovingly, that are still leaking power and draining your clarity and keeping you emotionally bound to a person or a dynamic or a version of yourself that is no longer in alignment. And sometimes you're not even angry at them. Sometimes you still love that person. And a cord cutting says, hey, I love you, but I release you from my field. Hey, I forgive you, but I'm calling my energy back. Now, let me explain a bit about how I do this work, because I do a combination of things and it's not super generic. It's not just energy healing. It's very intuitive, ancestral, and deeply spiritually led. My sessions are done remotely, as are some of the people that I work with, but the energetic connection there is very, very real. So before we ever start a session, we receive energetic permission, either through you booking a service with us, sending us a message and confirming that permission, or just your sacred intention. And that part matters, because without permission energetically from you, we can't take that cord and sever it and patch up your energy field. And then I personally use a combination of Reiki, folk magic, and ancestral guidance for these sessions. So I tune into your energetic field. I call on my guides, my ancestors, my God, and I look for points of entanglement, right? Between you and this person, or you in this situation, and tune into all of that to find where it's embedded, where it's wrapped, where it's stuck. And this can show up in different ways, right? You might have heaviness in certain chakras, like the heart, the sacral, or the throat chakra. Maybe there are some emotional imprints that have been left behind by this person, or there's old thought patterns, limiting beliefs, negative loops that are still running through your subconscious mind and infiltrating your aura. Or maybe it's grief that isn't even yours. And from there, I work to soften these cords. Not to yank them, not to cut them hard, but to soften them over time and gently release them in love. It's not meant to be violent. It's not meant to be angry. And some cords are ready to go. Some aren't. Some are just ready to loosen. And I work at the pace that your spirit and your guides are ready for. And for these types of practices, I always, always, always call in protection, grounding, and ancestors. Because any time that we release energy, it's not about letting go, right? Yes, we're releasing something, but what is going to come in and replace that? So the purpose of this is to make sure that you are spiritually held while your field restabilizes. Now, sometimes I'm guided to do a prayer, sometimes it's root work, sometimes it's just stillness and energy shifting, right? No session is ever the exact same because no spirit is exactly the same. So let's talk about what shifts after a cord cutting session. Most people feel sleepy. They feel emotionally light, not like a euphoric light, but like something heavy's been taken off of them. And then they have this new sense of stillness in their mind. And these thoughts are just slowing down, even though they've been looping at high speed for so long. And then the tension in their chest eases. That what if voice starts to fade. And for some people, it's immediate. Like they just suddenly realize they're not walking around with someone else's feelings anymore. But sometimes it's more subtle, right? Sometimes you stop dreaming about the person. You don't feel the urge to check your phone or check their socials. Maybe a song that reminds you of them plays, and instead of crying, you just listen and then move on. Sometimes you sleep throughout the night for the first time in weeks. And sometimes grief comes up. But it's not a messy grief that's full of regret or fantasy or desperation. It's a very clean grief, a release. Like your body finally feels safe enough to release all of this energy it's been holding on to. And that's holy, right? That is a part of healing. And it moves through you instead of camping out in your body. And then you might have bigger shifts too. Some people say they suddenly have this burst of energy, or they feel inspired and creative again. Some can make clearer choices. They might attract newer relationships that are healthier and don't mimic those older patterns. Because when that cord is gone, the space that was occupying it is yours again, right? You get to choose what fills that space. So if you're holding on, not because you want to, but because you don't know how to fully let go, I want you to know that you don't have to keep carrying them. You don't have to keep performing closure while secretly feeling hollow. You don't need another sign. You need space to feel yourself again. And this isn't about hating the other person. It's not about anger. It's about healing. It's about choosing you over and over and over again, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Cord cutting is a ritual of return, a return to you, a return to self, to clarity, a return to the version of you that isn't tied to someone else's chaos or confusion or karma. You are allowed to be whole. You are allowed to feel at peace again. You are allowed to let it go, even if you still love them. Even if there was no closure. Even if a part of you is scared of who you will be without that bond. And the truth is, you will be more you than ever. And if you want support in that release, I'm here whenever you're ready. I want to thank you for being present with us today. And I'm honored to hold space for you and have these discussions on your spirit and your energy. And if you are feeling ready, whether that means a full release or just taking the first step, our cord cutting sessions are here when you're ready. And it's very tender and it's very real and it's crafted with intention. Something specific to you, right? It's your healing. It's not a template that we follow for everyone. So if you feel called to work with us, the link is below, or you're always welcome to message us if you have any questions, if you're unsure, if you want something custom done. We're here. We'll figure it out together, right? No pressure, just love and light. And you don't need to know exactly what you need to begin. You just need to trust that part of you that is tired, that is exhausted, that doesn't want to continue carrying that energy that isn't yours. And if you did resonate with this video, if you felt seen or heard, I invite you to like, share, comment, subscribe, let us know your story, and share it with someone who may need a little energetic medicine today. We're so grateful that you're here, truly. So stay rooted, stay sacred, and stay in your power. Until next time.